Everybody knows about the offseason overhaul for Arizona and the key players at play, but there are some X factors if this team is going to reach its real potential. We are going to talk about those here on Locked On Wildcats.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, we got a lot to get to this show, but we are first going to talk about the offensive overhaul, which leads into the X factors and the offensive line. Now, as all of you, I'm sure know, because you're all smart people, Jedd Fisch has overhauled this entire Arizona offense. And not only has he overhauled it, he's overhauled it in a way that I don't think that many of us thought that he would be able to do, especially in one full offseason. Now, a big part of this was, let's be honest here, a big part of this was that you were able to get the quarterback in play. We're going to talk about that, and you were able to get the receivers. But there's a lot of under-the-radar players here that I don't know are getting necessarily enough talk, and we're going to talk about those players here, and then we're going to get into some of the other ones. But first, we got to talk about, though, the stars of this offense, and that would start with T-Mac. T-Mac is, there's no other way to put it, five-star kid, obviously coming out of high school. And not only was he a five-star kid coming out of high school, he looked every bit the part. At 6'4", 215 pounds now. He's faster than we've seen him be. And on top of that, when you watched him against Mississippi State, he was the best football player on the field. Granted, he had a few mistakes, but it's easy to see why he is viewed as a first-round pick. And when he is available, when he is ready, he will be a first-round pick. And honestly, it's easy to see why. He's great at the jump ball. He can go up and he can get it. And I think a big part of that is that football just comes naturally to him. There's a lot of guys that football, you can tell, doesn't really come natural to them for whatever reasons. They're playing just because they're big. They're playing because their dad wanted them to play. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you can name a variety of different examples. T-Mac plays football because he's good. And he is, and you saw that really in that Hail Mary towards the end of the first half that JDL threw up, where he was the only guy on that football field on a team playing against a bunch of SEC athletes was going to be able to get that ball. You don't see that a lot when it comes to players that come to the University of Arizona. So he is a total difference maker. He is, again, it was a little bit of a transition into college for him, but you got to remember, last year he still caught for 800 yards and 7 touchdowns. So it's not like he struggled or anything. But this year, I think you're looking at a guy who could easily challenge for first-team All-American status. He's got that type of ability. And not only does he have that type of ability, he is a guy who is he's only going to be here another year, but he's going to be the center part of this offense. And not only is he going to be the center part of this offense, he's going to be that guy. And he's going to be a reason why Jayden de Laura, in my opinion, shouldn't be doing dumb things, because you have players like T-Mac out there who are able to cover up some of your mistakes. And not only cover up some of your mistakes, go up and get it. He doesn't need to do the dumb things out there that he doesn't need to do the dumb things out there that he's been doing. And again, a big reason why is T-Mac. Then the other reason why, too, is Jacob Cowing. Now, Jacob Cowing is not nearly the prospect that T-Mac is, mainly because Jacob Cowing's about 5'8", but Jacob Cowing is still probably a slot receiver in the NFL, guy that can will have some next-level potential, was a preseason second-team All-American. I don't know that that's going to happen, because I think T-Mac's going to cut into a lot of that. But overall, a really, really good player right there, and definitely part of that overhaul in that one off season. Then the other dude as well that is a huge linchpin, and we'll get to some of the newcomers here in a second, is Jordan Morgan. Now, the big question with Jordan Morgan was he going to be healthy? Was he going to come back, and was he going to be the dude that he was before? And so far, so good. He certainly showed that against Mississippi State, that he looked like he was back. He had a play where he got the ball, and not only did he get the ball, he was able to kind of push somebody out of the way on the way to protecting the ball for the quarterback. You generally don't see offensive linemen able to do that. He was able to do just that. Not sure he's a first-round pick, but also not sure that he's not a first-round pick. Big Jonas Savaiinaea is obviously a first-round pick. Jonas Savaiinaea, for as much as we talk about T-Mac, and we should talk about T-Mac, Jonas Savaiinaea is the best prospect on this team, in my opinion. Not only is he the best prospect on this team, I think he's one of the best prospects that you could actually send. He's probably the best prospect that you could say that Arizona has had in a long time. I think that he could be a top 10 to 15 pick. And a big reason why is, let's be honest here, he can play tackle, he can play guard, and he excels at both. And I think that he's going, when he is eligible, he is going to be a high pick, and he should be a high pick because honestly, he's the best prospect on the team, and he was way overlooked coming out of high school. A big part of that was COVID, and obviously you had, and with COVID, you had a whole group of guys who essentially lost a year of playing in Hawaii. And not only did they lose a year of playing in Hawaii, they were just kind of under the radar. He's not going to be under the radar much longer, especially at that tackle position where he's dominated. He's also dominated at guard. Either way you put it, and I am going to go one step further right here. Not only that, if there is a better offensive lineman in the country than Jonas Savaiinaea, I would love to see it. And not only would I love to see it, I don't think that there is, because I just don't think there is. If he was at Alabama, this dude right now would be on everybody's All-American list, and quite frankly, he should be on everybody's All-American list because he's that good. He's that type of dude. And then obviously, so those are the real stars on the offense, the guys that are going to play in the NFL and are going to be first-round picks. T-Mac, Jonas Savaiinaea, locks to be first-round picks. And then after that, Jordan Morgan, likely a first-round pick, and at worst, second-round pick. And then you've also got Jacob Cowing, who's going to be in there. Now, some of the X factors going forward right here. First one is Tanner McLachlan. Now, a mistake-prone quarterback's best friend should always be the tight end, and that's the way that it is. Not only should it be your best friend, it's kind of the stage where I would almost say, listen, you got to target him. And not only do you have to target him, you have to target him 6, 7, 8 times a game, whatever the case may be, because he's good. You need him out there. Not only do you need him out there, you need him to be able to perform and catch, I would say, 4 or 5 passes per game at least. You saw it against Mississippi State. When Tanner McLachlan is fully engaged in the offense, this is a different offense, and he's a different player. And honestly, when you've got a really good tight end, use him. There, you see this all the time with schools that don't have really good tight ends, and they don't really use them. And you got to be able to use that. You got to be able to use him because he's that dude. Now, let's talk about Built Bar. All right, Built Bar, glad that they're back. Built Bar is fantastic. When you think of the strongest people out there, you probably think of people that have consumed Built Bar at some point in their life. And not only have they consumed Built Bar, they probably consume copious amounts of Built Bar because Built Bar is good. And not only is Built Bar taste good, Built Bar is fun. And Built Bar is something where, let's be honest here, everybody likes a Built Bar. And not only does everybody like a Built Bar, everybody loves to consume something that tastes good and helps you look good. Built Bar is here for you. It is for the people, by the people. And again, based out of Utah, big, strong people out of Utah. Go to your local GNC. Check out Built Bar. I love the blueberry. There's a lot of people out there that prefer other, but right now you got Built Bar. Check it out. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to continue with the X Factors. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats. I am your host, Mike Luke, and thanks for making this your first listen of the day. All right, now we're going to continue with X Factors. Another one is Michael Wiley. Now, I'm kind of I'm in a love-hate relationship. I'm kind of in a love-hate relationship with Michael Wiley right here. I do think that he's a really, really good player to have out there. And I think that he is also somebody who could possibly play in the NFL. He can catch passes out of the backfield, as we know. I mean, the guy was targeted 8 times. You can tell he's definitely Jayden de Laura's safety net. And not only is he Jayden de Laura's safety net, he's also the guy who can run the ball. Now, I think you saw against Mississippi State, though, that when you have Rayshon Speedy Luke in there, fam, there's a little bit of a different speed factor to him, in that Michael Wiley is a little slower hitting the hole right there. And not only that, he's a little bit more deliberate. Not a bad thing. But against really fast defenses, that's also something that is going to take a little bit of, I think it's going to take a little bit of time to be able to get everybody on the same footing for. But good player all the way around, obviously. But I would like to see some of the other backs get a little bit of time out there. And not only that, I'd like them to be able to get, I'd like to be able to see them be able to get, I don't know, 10 to 12 carries. 10 to 12 carries and 15 touches for Rayshon Speedy Luke, a.k.a. Fam, and Jonah Coleman. I think they've deserved that. And again, it's not a diss towards Michael Wiley, because Michael Wiley is a really, really good football player. But there's also a little bit of an explosion factor that those other guys have that I don't know that he necessarily has. That's kind of where it is with that. But I would love, Michael Wiley's definitely an X factor, but also Rayshon Speedy Luke, I believe, is an X factor. You got to remember, this dude was the MVP of the Army All-American Bowl. Probably the fastest player in that entire 2022 recruiting class. Won the state, was the fastest dude in the entire state of California. And he's got football moves. And when you got football moves, that helps you in a variety of different ways. He is really, really good, as we know. And not only is he really, really good, he's also the dude that is able to make guys miss. And when he makes you miss, he's probably taking it to the house. That's what he can do. That's how good he is. Just a really, really good football player. I think you got to utilize him. Whether that's on kick returns, whether that's, in the slot, I don't care how you do it. You got to be able to utilize him, because I think his talent is too good. And I think his speed is too important to not have out there in some capacity. I would have Fam, a.k.a. Speedy Luke, out there in a variety of different roles. And not only in a variety of different roles, but I would have a numbers catch where you're like, all right, you got to be able to have this. You got to be able to have a certain amount of catches or touches, because when you have those certain amount of touches, you're going to break some. He's that guy that is going to be able to break some. Also, a guy that I need to apologize to a little bit, Jonah Coleman. Jonah Coleman, very, very good. He came in very heavy last year, obviously, but he was able to drop a lot of that weight. Well, I don't know if drop the weight is, because he's probably the same, but it was reproportioned. And not only was it reproportioned, he was able to get to where when he got the corner, he could beat you around the corner. And we haven't seen that a lot from U of A guys, because honestly, it's just something that hasn't really happened. And not only has it not really happened, it hasn't really been something that we have seen the It hasn't really been something that we've seen before. So Jonah Coleman, I was a little wrong on Jonah Coleman, to be honest with you. I thought he was a little bit more of a plotter. And not only is he not a plotter, he's also a dude who is able to get after he's the able guy that's able to run, make that next move, and then get gone. And guess what? He's also one of probably the strongest pound for pound guy on the team. So if you try to tackle him, he's probably going to stiff your arm you into next week. So again, Jonah Coleman in there. DJ Williams as well. I mean, the running backs, I know this, the running backs are all kind of an X factor here because it's such a talented unit and they bring all so many different qualities. Now, I think with Michael Wiley, he's the most solid out of all of them, but I also don't know that he has the explosive factor that even a dude like DJ Williams has. I saw DJ Williams, by the way, at Panda Express the other night, hanging out with T-Mac and who else were they? Who else was he with? Oh, and G7 right there. They were all having a good time right there, hanging out with the ladies at Panda. But all the running backs, I think, are essentially a kind of an X factor right there. And then the last X factor before we get into the offensive line is Montana Lamonius Craig. All right. Besides having a great name, Montana Lamonius Craig is you need a little bit more out of him, in my opinion. Not only do you need a little bit more out of him, in my opinion, you need to be able to, I think this is more than fair to say, I think that you need to be able to get 70 yards per game out of him, 50 to 70 yards per game. He's 6'3", 215 pounds. He's a huge dude. You can see why he was so highly rated coming out of high school. If you're not going to sub any receivers in and out, then you got to, I think, in my opinion, you've got to be able to use him. And not only do you have to use him, you have to use him in a variety of different packages because right now, I just don't know that it's worthwhile having him out there as just the only dude if he's only catching 2 to 3 passes. That, to me, doesn't make a ton of sense. So those are kind of your X factors. Now, we're going to break down the offensive line coming up next because I think on the West Coast, this is about as good an offensive line as you're going to find. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now, my friends, we're going to talk about the O-line. Now, Jedd Fisch said before the year that Arizona fans aren't used to having the offensive line being one of the strengths of the team. Jedd Fisch is correct. We are not used to having the offensive line being one of the strengths of the team. And not only are we not used to having the offensive line being one of the strengths of the team, we're not used to having NFL players there, period. And not only are we not used to having NFL players, we're also not used to having guys who, let's be honest here, can make next level moves that can get to the second level, and somebody that Mel Kiper is going to be looking at on his draft boards. We're just not used to that. We've already been over Jordan Morgan. Jordan Morgan's come back, and not only has Jordan Morgan come back, he's looked good during it. He looks like he hasn't missed any time, and not only does he look like he hasn't missed any time, he looks like he's able to basically pick up where he left off, and if he hasn't, he's also kind of at the stage where you're also feeling really, really good about him being able to fill out this entire season. And a big part of it was because Jedd Fisch also said that he's on no snap count or anything like that. The dude obviously worked really, really hard. But not only did he work really, really hard, he also was able to keep his flexibility, keep his dexterity. And that was a big part of everything that he was able to do, was that he was able to maintain his strength, get stronger, if anything, and come back looking like he's even better than he was before. That is something you generally don't see. He was an absolute stalwart against Mississippi State, and I would expect that to continue absolutely against anybody that Arizona plays. He is a really, really good he's a really, really good dude. Now, a couple other things that we also need to look at right here is Jonas Savaiinaea. Now, again, I know we already talked about Jonas Savaiinaea in depth, but guess what? We're about to do it again. Jonas Savaiinaea is really, really good. And not only is Jonas Savaiinaea really, really good, he is kind of a, especially in these parts, he's kind of a generational talent in that he is able to get to the second level with ease. And not only is he able to get to the second level, he's also able to essentially to pass block as well as he can run block. And he's obviously a very, very good run blocker as well. So again, there's a lot to like about him, but more so than anything, you very rarely see anybody that's this strong. Jedd Fisch came in and he said, yeah, you don't generally see dudes who are this strong that are ready to come in and, essentially do what they got to do out there. And that's exactly what he's been able to do. And not only has he been able to do it, he's been able to do it in a variety of ways. I think a big part of it, though, is how flexible, how athletic he is, just like Jordan Morgan. Stop me if you've heard this before, but Tyler Owens done a really, really good job with this team and this strength staff. And you can tell why Arizona said, we're going to pay Tyler Owens more money because Tyler Owens deserves more money. And yes, Tyler Owens absolutely deserves more money. They need to keep him here by any means necessary because he's probably going to go off to the NFL at some point. And when he goes off to the NFL, he's probably going to be a dude that's going to be one of those guys that everyone's like, all right, well, yeah, Tyler Owens, he's really, really good. But Arizona is very lucky to have him. I should have included Tyler Owens as an X factor as well, but I didn't. But you know what? That's okay. We'll keep talking about TO. Now, next show, UTEP is here. The line is a little bit closer. You should be on FanDuel, by the way, but the line is a little bit closer than I think a lot of people expected, including myself. Why is it only 17? We need to dive into that. Also, we're going to look around the conference a little bit there, talk about some teams, make fun of ASU, and just kind of see where everything is in the grand scheme of things. But as always, you guys have a great, great rest of your Thursday. Big time props. Appreciate all of you for tuning in. I'm your host, Mike Luke, and thanks for making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. We will be back with you tomorrow again, getting you ready for the UTEP Miners right there. All right, we'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks for making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day.